Greetings. Today we're going to walk through how to set up alternate methods for manufactured product. So our use case is we have a product, this hinge that we make in-house, but currently our internal laser cutter is way overloaded. So we've worked through a different supplier to help us with that load by doing the cutting at their facility. So to start with creating that alternate method, we bring up the part and then we go to the revisions detail. And notice I am using the Kinetic browser interface for this, but this is also available in the classic screens and earlier versions of Epicor. So I'm going to open up the alternate method. I'm going to add an alternate method and I'm going to give it a name. So in this case, I'm going to make it EXT for external. And then I will put laser cut external. And I'm going to go ahead and save this. And I do need to update the method on it. So I'm going to check out the revision. And you'll notice here that I have both the standard revision that we had and the alternate method showing here. So I'm going to click this. Let me select my ECO group. When I say OK, it's going to come back and it's going to tell me that all of the methods for the selected revision will be checked out. So I'm not only checking out my main revision, I'm also checking out this additional alternate method. So it's defaulted my revision to not approved. That's because of the way I have it set up in my company configuration. And I'm going to go into Engineering Workbench. So I can see in my tree that I actually have two different methods here. I've got the original one that doesn't have an alternate, and I've got the alternate. If I look at the operations on here, I've got operations for the laser, assembly, and inspection. We'll still be doing the assembly and inspection in-house, but we need this laser operation to be an outside process. Now, when you look at this laser operation, I do have materials related to this laser operation. For my use case, I'm going to say that the supplier is going to be providing all those materials, so I don't need to send anything out. However, in your situation, if you are going to gather those materials and send it out to the supplier in order to perform the cutting, you could go ahead and change this operation to a pick. In my case, I'm just going to delete this operation. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a new subcontract operation. And for my subcontract operation, I'm going to select the outside vendor laser. And I want to go into the details of this. You notice that it said operation 40. I do want to make this operation 10. So I'm just going to save that. I'm making this change to order this properly. And then you can see I've got a supplier ID that defaulted in from the operation. If you do this same operation with multiple suppliers, you could opt to not have a default supplier on your operation master and then just fill it in based on the method that you're creating. I'm going to put in a quoted cost, so they're saying $10 per piece. And then the days out is how many days the subcontract operation will take before we get it back. This will read the calendar that is on the supplier. If the supplier does not have a calendar, it will default to the main or the site default calendar for determining the days. So in my case, it's going to be 5 business days because my site calendar has Saturday and Sunday as non-production days, and my supplier does not have an individual calendar assigned to them. So I am going to save this, and then I'm going to go back to my engineering workbench, and I am going to check this in. I'm going to approve and check in all. And yes, I'm sure. You can put a description in here. I'm just going to leave it as is at the default. And here it's telling me that it checked in both parts. So now when I go back to my part master and refresh, I can see that that revision is approved. And I've also had this alternate method. Now, if I want this, say my laser cutter, we're looking to do this externally for the next couple months. What I can do is go into the site record and I can actually select that as my primary method. So I'm going to look for my methods. I'm going to select this as my alternate method and click OK and save. So if you run MRP and you have unfirmed jobs out there, the next time MRP runs, it will grab this alternate method with the outside processing instead of the one where we're doing it fully internal. And at the point where you're not going to be going through the outside processor, you're going to make it in-house completely again, you would just delete this value. And again, next time MRP runs, it will update all unfirmed jobs. And yes, I did say unfirmed jobs. So what do you do with the jobs that you have out there? This is a business decision to make. But what you can do is I'm going to look for this part and I'm going to look to see if I have any jobs. So if I look at my jobs here, let me refresh my grid. And I'm going to look to see if I have any jobs that have not been released to the floor yet. Because in my situation, I'm going to go ahead and let the jobs that are released to the floor continue on through our internal process. But anything new, I want to go ahead and use an outside process. So there's a couple of different ways to handle these jobs. I could go ahead and close this job, and if it is the product is needed, MRP would create a new unfirmed job using that alternate method overnight. But in my case, I'm just going to update this job that's sitting here. So I'm going to go ahead and unengineer it, save it, and then I'm going to go to my assemblies here, and I can see my operations and materials are all here, but that's not the way I want to make this specific job. So I'm going to highlight my assembly and I'm going to select delete all. And I'm going to say it's okay to delete all subassemblies, operations, materials, because I'm going to get the details from my new alternate method. So now all of that operations and materials are gone. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to get details. And from this method, I'm going to select my alternate method because that's the external one. So I'm going to click OK. And now if I look at this job, my first operation is that outside processing. And then we bring it in-house to finish it out. So I'm going to go back to my job details and I'm going to go ahead and release this job. So again, let's say now we want to go back to normal processing. We can always go back to deleting out this primary alternate method. Then MRP would create any of those new jobs with it being completely in-house. If you don't have an existing job out there and you want to create a new job for this part, you can also select an alternate method that way. So I'm going to create a new job. And this is the new quick job entry screen that we had in earlier versions of Epicor. So I'm going to put in my part number. I'm going to put in a quantity. And you can see it defaulted for my external method because that's my primary on the site. And if you had more than one external method, you could actually see them in this screen and select a different one. But this is the one I wanted. So I'm going to go ahead and release this and schedule it and click OK. And now I have my new job number. And if I look at the assemblies, again, I have all my operations. I have The first operation is that outside process. So I hope you find this helpful. If you are curious on how to handle subcontract operations or to explore more on subcontract operations, please refer to our Mayan Technology YouTube channel. We do have a video here from Ana Luisa on how to manage subcontracts and purchase orders in Epicor.